Let's make sure. Nope. Okay, stream settings, stream key. There you go. Yeah. This is fabulous. How exciting. Okay, so this is very exciting for me because it's going live. I'm live in the place that I'm trying to be live. I'll tell you something about LinkedIn Live. It is not the most intuitive, but note that I have a very cool little countdown thingy happening here. I'm liking that. It's not letting me see my preview right now, but that's fine. I'm going to assume that it's there. Okay, so it is 9:01, which means that now we're going to go into the scene. Hello, scene. Let me hide my cover and hi. Hey, everybody. Good morning. It is April Fool's Day, not my favorite day in the world, by the way. I want to just double check to make sure that we are good to go live on LinkedIn. Because, I mean, I know I'm live on YouTube. I say that with such confidence. For any of you who've ever gone live before, you know that like the first few weeks that you do it, or the first few times you do it, it's like, hey, I'm double checking, gotta check this, gotta check that. I always like to do that with people because it feels a little less lonely. I think if you were here last week, then you might remember me saying that, like, for some weird reason, I always feel more comfortable when I'm live doing these things. Like, some people are like, oh my God, oh, look at me. Look at me. I'm so cute. I'm live. We have 8 people. Hi, 8 people who are here. Oh my God. It's okay. So it's working. Fabulous. Okay. So today, welcome, welcome. Now, as we're getting used to all of this LinkedIn stuff, I might have my comments here on the right-hand side. So if you comment, I'll see it there. So if somebody wants to go ahead and maybe I'll comment to myself. Hi, Manessa. How are you doing? Be like, oh, I'm great myself. How are you? Let me make sure I can hear me. That's important. It's okay, so it's working. I can also hear me. Great. All right, fabulous. We're good. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Intent. Let's kick off our week with enthusiasm. If you don't recall, or if you weren't here last week as I was trying to get everything ready, Intent is something that I used to do years ago when I was a marketer, a business coach, and so on. And I actually did it for many, many years. And it was just it was a thing that I liked to do because I realized that I was starting off all my Mondays with like the Monday blues. Every Monday I would be singing the Boomtown Rats song, I don't like Mondays, tell me why. And I don't even like that song, but I would sing it because, I mean, I don't like Mondays. And I was like, gosh, that's like 1/7 of my week. I don't want to start my week feeling that way. How can I start my week feeling differently? And I knew that I was never going to do it on my own. So I decided to bring my whole community along with me, and I started going live every Monday just so that I would start off with a good attitude. Because like they would call me out on it. They'd be like, hey, listen, your attitude is not awesome today. What can we? And so over the years, people have sent me things to help start like good Mondays and things like that. And one of my favorite things is Snoop Dogg's affirmations video. If you haven't seen it, I cannot recommend it enough. Today is going to be an amazing day. I also love Snoop Dogg, like absolutely love him. Okay, so today we have a lot of things going on. First things first, though, I don't do April Fools, so nothing that I say today is going to be April Foolsy. It's not really my thing. I don't like tricks. I don't like pranks. I don't like that. They make me feel, I don't know, icky inside. So don't worry. Everything that we talk about today is going to be not April Foolsy. So let us start with Tanya Blackwell and I. So Tanya and I met in Hawaii. We had actually never met before, but we like kind of saw each other and we were in a couple sessions together and there was a giant connection there. And so she and I were talking and we were together on this incredible keynote on Friday, which I'll share the link for. When I'm going to turn this into like a post that has all like the notes and stuff, because there's just too many links for anyone to keep track of. But the keynote speaker for this event was Sun Michaud. And Sun Michaud is a brilliant educator. Let me see. I wonder if I have his stuff up right now. Let me see. In case you wanted to like follow him. Let's see. I added some cool stuff this time around. Look at that. Okay, that's a fun thing that I added too, but that's not for now. That's just where we go. There we go. Sun Michaud. So that's how you spell his name. I highly recommend following him. He's amazing. He's a brilliant educator, brilliant musician, the most beautiful hair I've ever seen, which you can't really tell here because you can't see his picture. But Tanya and I were both so excited. So excited. We had literally just been talking about him like 20 minutes before. And then suddenly the keynote is there and we're watching him on the keynote. And it was absolutely just mind blowing. Not just his conversation. I'm going to hide this because it's like on half of my face. But also his, also the actual event itself had this really great way of beginning. So they started with a grounding. And so basically the grounding that they said was, we offer this grounding in the spirit of care and love. This is also on their website, by the way, so you can look it up there if you want. And, you know, as you listen, read and write today, observe your space, check in with your mind, body, and spirit. What do you need to bring with you when you're on this journey today? You know, where do you need to position your body? Do you need to lie down? Do you need to sit up? Do you need to be fidgeting? You know, do you need to stim? I need to stim a lot. Do you need to eat or drink water? I tend to not recognize when my body is thirsty. And so I don't hydrate. I have ADHD. And so like there's some things that I forget to do. I forget to eat. Sometimes I'll forget to drink water. And so I tend to get like really dehydrated. And I need to like be mindful about that, because I know that when my body gets to a certain level of dehydration, I get cranky, I get unproductive, you know, and it's something simple that I can resolve simply by drinking more water, right? Like you drink more water, but something that may come simply to someone else, right? Would just drink more water, put your bottle in front of you, it'll remind you, that kind of thing, is something that comes very difficult. It's very challenging for me. So what are the things that I can do to make it? And so truthfully, my wife, we drink water. We drink water. It's like, yeah, no, I'll drink it right now. And like, sometimes I get annoyed, but it's like, oh yeah, you know what? I'm still going to drink it because it's good for me. By the way, this is iced tea, not water. Because I really prefer iced tea to that. So that's something that they talked about at the very beginning. Like, do you need your camera on or off? Do you need to close your eyes? We invite you to explore and express your body, mind, spirit's needs tenderly as they arise while we are gathered together in this virtual space. And what I really liked about that was that, you know, I think when we as research administrators are, and I just want to make sure I go back to the thing that has the, as research administrators, while we are, what's the word I'm looking for? Caught up in our day-to-day things that we're working on. It can just be really challenging to, and by the way, I just want to make sure, I just realized that okay, good. Let me mute this thing. Okay, perfect. When we as research administrators get caught up, right? So like, you know, you're doing a reconciliation, you're doing an application, you're dealing with a crisis. It can get so consuming, right? Like I find that when I think about where my attention is, it's like so in that space that I can forget to pee, I can forget to eat, I can forget to drink water, I can forget to take a really deep breath. I can forget to walk around and like make sure that I'm really taking care of myself. And I think that I was talking to somebody the other day about research administrators, and in general, like everybody agrees, okay? And we both agreed that research administrators are the sort of people who would, if like we're sitting together talking, right? And I'm hungry and you have half of an egg salad sandwich and you haven't eaten all day and you're starving. And I say, God, I'm hungry. You would literally hand me your egg salad sandwich without even thinking of the fact that you're starving, right? And give it to me, because research administrators, we tend to be people who want to help. We want to make things better. We want things to be as easy as possible for other people. And so sometimes I think we do that to our own detriment, right? Especially if we have access needs, right? And one of the conversations I think that we've been having, Lamar and Tanya and I had this conversation with, in one of the DEI group that they led at NCURA, and then, other conversations about this happening in other places, that, access needs do not need to be held in shame. We all have various capacities, right, that require different environments to function in. And I think that, where at some point in the past, everything got normalized to say, okay, this is sort of what everybody needs, right? And this is what everybody's going to get. Like, this is the cookie cutter, because it gets the most number of people and so on. And at some point that may have been true. But I think that like now as we all start to really hone into our own individual needs and start to listen to our bodies and things like that, the requirements in both like that we have of ourselves, that we have of our organizations, are going to change, because we recognize that, okay, I know that I need to do X, Y, Z to perform at my highest level. I'm not getting that, right? Whether that be, like, for example, for me, it was something so simple. I can't work in an environment that has a big light, one of those big flashing lights. Like, if you want me to perform at a high level, I can't be in big flashing lights, and it gives me a migraine. It makes me nauseous. I cannot function properly. So if you want Vanessa, who can do crisis management, let's turn on pool of light and have a couple of lamps. And it seems like a really small thing, but think of how many organizations have big overhead lights, right? And now many people who are neurodivergent struggle with the big light. So now think about how many spaces exist out there that are not accommodated. Let me rephrase that do not provide the optimal environment for that group to be successful. And so part of, I think, the conversation, again, during like DEI and stuff like that, is recognizing different people's needs. And so to that end, I actually want to call myself out, because while we were at the NCURA event in Hawaii, I realized, I knew at the moment, like there's a moment where you like suddenly realize that you're like, oh my God, I am not being as inclusive as I think I am. And it was when I realized that my website is not very inclusive for people who have trouble seeing or who use readers. And so I just knew it, right? I didn't even need to go to my website when I had this realization. I just realized it. And so as I watched this session, and I was like, okay, I know kind of what I want to do to fix it. And then I came back, and as I started to put that together, I watched this session with Tanya, where I saw how much care they put into this session, right? And how much work they did to make sure each individual person's needs were included. And you know what I felt coming off of them is something that Tanya said about sort of like the vision for the SCDEI committee, which is that please know that if your need is not met, right, if there's something that you access need that you have that's not met, please know that it is because we don't know, not because we know and we didn't care. Right. And so that's such a different feeling, right? Like, 'cause like, I think for me, a lot of times I just felt like people didn't care. But then when somebody says, listen, I do care, I just may not know. So tell me and we'll make it right. And then immediately on the heels of that, going to this event where the care that they put into the things, right? And they did the same thing at NCURA, made me realize that when people are already showing care to others, you believe them when they say they will show care towards you when you need them. Right. And so I think that that's really cool. And so for me personally, calling myself out on recognizing that, okay, my website is not very accessible. And so I need to fix that. Right. And so I went and I got an app that basically downloads and says, these are all the things that are not accessible. And now my job is to fix them. Right. And it's going to take time, but that is part of the work. Right. And I think that like, that's one of the challenges, I think, for a lot of us, is that like the work just keeps going. Right? There's just more. And I think that's the thing. But I think on one hand, the way to look at it is that, oh my God, I keep having to do this work. But on the other hand, what it really is, oh my gosh, I keep getting these opportunities to make more people feel included and cared about and things like that, which I think is actually pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Okay. So, why is all that important? So why all that is important is because, I was putting together my videos for NCURA Region 1. So I am the keynote speaker for NCURA Region 1's conference. I'm so excited. I'm going to be posting a lot about it because first of all, it's my first keynote. But second, I've wanted to do this since I was a wee little research administrator. Like we taught many years ago, 25 years ago, baby RA. And so I'm really excited to be able to be doing that. But one of the videos was talking about like, what is our arch nemesis, right? And that'll be going up, and Carol will post that shortly. But what is our arch nemesis in research administration? And our arch nemesis right now is, is vacancies, right? And so one of the things that contributes to vacancies is people feeling like they're not included, and not included, in like the overt ways and like the unconscious bias ways that we talk about, but included in like in a different visceral way. And a lot of that, oh, you know what? I don't have my book. And a lot of that is actually, is about how individual needs in the workspace are being met. One of the things that came up, speaking of which, is related to these vacancies, is that there are opportunities everywhere if you're a research administrator right now, right? If you're not on the res admin mailing list, take a look around. There's sign up on it. The link will be there. And sorry, I totally ADHD moment. If you're not on the res admin mailing list, right, take a look around. It's especially important if your organization doesn't allow for remote work, right? Look around. There are so many jobs available right now. I think one of the biggest challenges that exists in general is that we tend to feel like, oh, well, it's going to be the same everywhere else, or so on. And if you're someone who feels like your needs aren't being met in your environment, there's just too many opportunities out there to stay where you're at. Because the res admin mailing list has a ton of opportunities. It's fascinating to me actually how some organizations are actually not allowing for remote work for whatever reasons. I'm sure there's economic reasons. There's that's it. There's only economic reasons, because the truth is this, right? Research administration doesn't require you to go into the office. It really doesn't. Some people want to go into the office. They like going into the office. It's actually really healthy for them. They need that social interaction. Totally get it. But requirement is the question, right? So I think for a lot of people, they're finding out, and this is a conversation that's been happening all over the place right now, not just in research admin, but in other places where, there's, a lot of rent being paid on giant buildings in Boston right now that are empty, right? And so, I think that I find it surprising that remote work isn't just a given for this, right? Because there are some organizations that simply won't allow for it. And I think that we're going to find that those organizations are going to have a hard time attracting new talent because this is an option that's being given. And it's something that, a lot of us are recognizing as a critical element of our feeling of well-being for our lives. And the thing is this, right? And this is a conversation that's happening in many different spheres in terms of employee wellness programs and, employee wellness and so on, is that a lot of these initiatives, one of the challenges that comes with them is that a lot of them are about checking off boxes. Individual managers want what's best for their employees, of course, but there's a disconnect between the infrastructural level of some of these organizations, right, where it's being decided on how jobs are being graded and whether or not a job is remote or things like that, and the people who are actually doing the work. And so I think for a lot of us, we know that remote work is the wave of the future and that we don't need it, but the point, and that we don't need to actually be coming in. So if you are if that is something, and of course, if that is something that you are thinking about, then check out the res admin mailing list. There are so many jobs available. I pulled out a few because I was like, oh, these are really interesting ones. And I specifically pulled out ones that were fully remote. So Valerie Sneed is hiring in the University of Chicago. She's hiring a financial analyst that's fully remote. Darcy Halfley at UC San Diego is hiring an RE3, also fully remote. Miriam Plowman of USC is also hiring a fully remote associate research administrator. So those are a few that are available. But if you're not a member of the mailing list, the res admin mailing list, I would strongly recommend signing up for it. And I have to really get rid of the ums. I think the ums are bothering me. That's what's tripping me up. It's something I was noticing the other day when I was recording my videos. And I was like, my God, the number of ums that I do is just I should just have a filter that just immediately as I do it just beeps out. But the res admin mailing list actually is not the only place you can go. You can go to the NCURA Career Center. The University of Vermont has a whole bunch of open spaces there. So definitely check that out. And, I think that one of the things to think about for employers who are concerned about all of these vacancies is, I mean, because everybody's concerned about them. I don't mean employers who are like directors and who are RAs, because like a lot of the times, like we already know what's going on. Those are the people who are doing the research and admin work on the ground. We know what's happening. So this is more for like, again, the infrastructural spaces, I think, but this actually might help for directors too, though, in that the people who need to be convinced, again, are at like the HR level and the VP level and things like that, to recognize that the job has changed fundamentally from when we first started writing job descriptions for it about 20 years ago. And so one of the things that I wanted to recommend is that, because this makes the argument that leadership understands. And when I say leadership, I mean organizational leadership, right? Is doing a benchmarking report, doing a benchmarking survey. Huron has a really good one. I'm sure other organizations have one as well, but I've worked with Huron before on this. And it's a really powerful exercise they come in and they basically do a whole bunch of surveys and assess your organization and figure out, okay, this is what a portfolio is in your organization. Bam, there you go, right? Based off of what you have said, right? And so it's customized to you. But then when you have that benchmark, you're able to say that, oh, okay, like we thought that we needed 3 people for this. We really need 6 people, right? We thought we needed 5 people for this. We really need 3 people, or like whatever it ends up being. It doesn't ever actually end up being lower. Usually it ends up being more. And a lot of that is because of the nature of how the job has changed over the years, right? And our job descriptions are sort of updating, but they're kind of like straddling this weird hybrid space. And so what I wanted to sort of recommend is, if you haven't checked out a Huron or done a benchmarking report for your organization, that would be super, super helpful in terms of determining what are the appropriate workloads and then making that business case to your leadership, right? Because like I said, a lot of us who are in the director levels or who have done this kind of work for many, many years, we know what is needed. We have like the intuitive knowledge, and we can probably like say, this is how many more you need. But a lot of times, like at the leadership level, that's not being sort of heard. And so this kind of benchmarking exercise can be really helpful. The other Deloitte, when I was at NCURA, at FRA, I had a conversation with Andrew from Deloitte, and they were talking about this salary benchmarking survey that they just did, which is really exciting, and I'm looking forward to connecting with him on that. Talking about the salaries for research administration. So here's like salaries for research administration and how this kind of knowledge is helping to increase salaries in various organizations. So what's super exciting, talking about starting your week off with sort of enthusiasm here, is that these are great. This is like a great time to be a research administrator, like the best time to be a research administrator, because it is full of opportunities and full of opportunities for us to make changes in our own way in which we do work, right? Because we all know something needs to change. So we're all ready to kind of be like, let's just toss things off and do the thing. And so something that I wanted to recommend is I have a few videos that are up right now. These are new videos. The first one is 7 email hacks to save 2 hours or more in your day. And so this is super helpful because it is one of the biggest challenges that we have as research administrators is managing all of the things that are coming in and out all the time, right? There's in and out, all the things, right? And how do you prioritize 500 emails, a proposal that needs to go in, your reconciliations that need to be taken care of, and so on and so forth. And a lot of, crisis handling, right? Because a lot of it's like juggling balls. You're like, all right, throw in the air, right? And there's really not a lot of time to sit down and say, okay, I need to just figure this out. Like, we all want that time, but how do you build the plane while you're taking off? And so one of the things that I wanted to recommend is looking at this video, and I have a couple of them going up in like bits and pieces. So like one video is like 3 minutes and one video is like 2 minutes. So you can just implement 1 or 2 as you see fit. But that's actually, I think, the biggest challenge. And even when I was working with business owners, the biggest challenge is that you have a lot of like really brilliant, capable people who are capable of doing enormous amounts of work at any given point in time, like just enormous amounts of work. But when you're doing that enormous amount of work, like there's not a lot of, it's kind of like everything's balanced, like the plates are all balanced perfectly, there is not really a lot of opportunity to stop and say, okay, give me a second. I'm just going to put all these things down. I'm going to figure out how to manage my email. Give me a sec. I'm going to do that here. No, I'm sorry. I know that proposal is due, but I need to deal this so that, and even though we know that that's what we want to do, because I hear it all the time. I hear so many people saying, like, if I could just get this amount of time to reset, I'd be okay, but I just can't seem to get there, right? I'm just constantly catching up. So one of the things that I started to get really adept at was how do we reorganize while we're balancing the plates, right? So it's like, okay, here's a plate, there's a plate, and we're just going to move them around while we're balancing them. And so these are little email hacks that if you sort of apply one or apply another, it will help to create a little bit of balance, but like without sort of you noticing, right? So that at some point you're like, oh, look, the load is a little bit lighter, and it helps to do that. So I put that video together. These are some of my favorite things to do, because these are like the little simple things that we typically tend to like ignore. And we're like, oh yeah, that's not going to matter. That's not going to help. But the truth is, those are the things that make like the biggest difference ever. Like such a big difference. It's the foundational things. Cause I'll tell you, I have really poor posture, right? And a lot of it is because so I have sciatica. So when one part of my leg hurts, I got to balance another leg, and it's just all kinds of weird. So sometimes I'll stand one way, create pain a different way because I'm trying not to be on pain on this side. And but then I end up in pain all over the place. And ultimately, I've been told this, that if I balanced, and I worked with Grayson, he's fabulous. He's and this might help us. And he does the Alexander technique, and he helped me with my posture. And he said, if you can align yourself so that your foundation is strong and you're letting your body support you in the way that it is designed to support you, then you will be in less pain. Your day-to-day life will be overall better, right? And it's just a small action, right? And I was like, oh no, I was like, no, it's got to be something big. It's got to be something big and dramatic that I do that makes a change, right? But he was like, no, it's just something that's little. And so the example he used for me is this, and I actually love using this example. So if you're sitting down right now, okay, I want to ask you, is your butt flat in the seat? So are you letting the seat have your full weight, or are you leaning forward just a little bit, almost even if your feet aren't off the ground, just little bit, right? So you're not really trusting the seat to carry your weight. And so one of the things that he taught me was, he was like, okay, just sit down now and let the seat take your weight and let gravity do the work. And I was like, wow, and when I did that, I could really tell the difference. And for me, that translated into, when I don't trust the foundation of the universe, gravity, right? And my structure, when I don't trust my own foundation, I am going to constantly be in a hypervigilant state, because I've got to be ready for whatever, right? So but if I trust the surfaces and the engines that exist to support me, then I will be able to relax and put my entire focus on what it is that I'm doing, not be partially focused on this state of half getting up, right? Because my body is tense. And the same thing holds true for work, right? So I started to realize for myself, I was like, oh darn, if I don't trust the foundations under which I've built the systems under which I've built my day-to-day work, I'm going to constantly feel like I have to stay on top of all the things because I can't balance it. So the 7 email hacks came from a space where I was like, I need to figure out a way to trust my email system more, because what it ultimately came down to was that I didn't have anything that I could codify and say, oh, okay, this is what I'm doing. Okay. So, all right, we're going to, as we wrap up, give me one sec. I want to just double check on all these things. Make sure I'm still live and all that nice stuff. And then I wanted to share some cool stuff from NCURA, and then we're going to wrap this puppy up. We have, so did I mention that some videos are coming from NCURA today because I'm keynoting? Did I say I was keynoting? I'm sorry. I'm really excited about that. Oh my goodness. It was funny. Okay, I'm still pinned there. Okay, fabulous. All right, great. Okay. So, a couple things I wanted to touch base on with you, some things that might help you out. So, first, if you went to, or if you go to any of these, I need to bring bigger glasses of iced tea next time. If you go to any of these conferences, one of the biggest challenges is, I did it again with the one of the biggest challenges is making sure that you follow up with everyone that you met, because when we're at the conference, it's so exciting, so much energy, so much stuff happening. And if you're like me, I am so easily overwhelmed that like it all happens. And when the, whoa, that was my phone. Don't worry, everybody, everything's fine. I don't know if you even heard that. It was just a giant crash. But like at the end of a conference, that is actually I'm like, ugh. It's just, I get so overstimulated. And if any of you have neurodivergent children, I think you know what it's like when they get overstimulated. I was actually at a conference, the South Shore Conference for Women. I'm on the board there. And this year, I was there for 2 whole days, right? And then at the end of the second day, like 5 o'clock when it was over, I walked up to Jen Masita and Kelly, and I looked at them and I said, I have to... And Kelly immediately understood what was happening. And she said, go home, we're good. She like, as she knew, and she was like, it's good. She could tell and I felt so seen in that moment. Talk about inclusion. In that moment, I knew she understood exactly. I'd become nonverbal, and she knew I was nonverbal. And so she just took care of it for me. And her and Jen were just so wonderful. So it matters. It matters when you notice, like it's awesome. Where was I going with that? Oh, right. So, conferences. So at the end of a conference, I'm totally like overwhelmed. And then I get home, and then the day to day, and then the cards day. And I don't ever end up getting to the cards. Now, this is something that doesn't happen anymore, but this used to happen to me all the time, right? And so I wasn't able to leverage all of the relationships. And speaking of all this time of change and whatnot, the relationships in the community that we've built in talking to each other is going to be absolutely critical right now, because I think, and this is what NCURA really offers us, and not just NCURA, but like any opportunity that exists for research administrators to gather, whether it is local, whether it is online. It doesn't have to be NCURA. It doesn't have to be paid. It doesn't have to be anything. It can literally just be like somebody getting together in the process improvement and training group that is run by Amanda Berdine. It helps us to see that our challenges, though difficult, are shared, right? And so if you just got back from FRA and you have like a stack of cards, what I want to recommend that you do is don't overwhelm yourself by being like, oh my God, I have to get a hold of everybody. Break it up into batches, right? So take one person and you message one person every couple of days, message one person a week. It doesn't take very long. A few of the things that you're going to say are going to be very similar, right? You want to get together, you want to talk, you want to this. The conversation that you have had with that person is going to be individual. So like, hey, I talked to you about salaries. Hey, I talked to you about this. But in the end, the message is the same. So you can figure out how to batch it so that you're like, okay, the last sentence is going to be the same. I'm going to send something out to somebody, once every week, and then slowly build that, right? Because even done is better than perfect. And I think for a lot of us, we're like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to go through this stack of cards, right? And because that's how we've always been taught to do it is, oh, you got to do the laundry. I'm going to do the laundry, right? I got to carve out time to do laundry. But what many of us have figured out about laundry now is that you put the load in, and then you go and you work, and then you do something else, and then you do the thing, and then you come out and you put it in the dryer, and we figured out how to make it flow within our day. And the same thing is true for our networking. And the networking is something that typically, I'll tell you, it is not something that I've fully appreciated the value of until I started to get older. And I don't know why, what changed within me. I'd be curious to know, for those of you who appreciated networking later on, like what was it that happened? Because I know that something has changed within me. I appreciate it now. I can see the value of it. And for me, I don't actually necessarily understand how that transition came to pass. So I'd actually be really curious to know like what other people's journeys were like on that. But at some point, I can tell you with surety now, it is the answer to almost everything. Right? If you don't have to know the answer to everything. If you know who knows the answer, then it's as good as you knowing the answer, honestly, especially these days. So, to that end, today, pick one person off of your pile of business cards, or one person that honestly doesn't just have to be from conferences. I saw Vanessa Rook do a video on mindfulness in research administration, and I loved it. So I reached out to her and I was like, oh my God, Vanessa, you're amazing. Will you write an article for the NCURA magazine? Because I'm the contributing editor this year. And she's like, yeah, sure. So it's fabulous. She's going to have an article coming out at the end of the year. So reach out to people. If there's anybody online who's like, that you're like, oh my God, they're talking about something brilliant. So many of whom, like, so I went through all my business cards. I have everybody listed now, and I've reached out to some of you already. I have another set of people that I'm reaching out to this week. But then after that, I actually have a list of people. I downloaded the oh my God, the program. And there's a list of people from the program that I want to reach out to, whose sessions I wasn't able to go to because I had to go to another session or I was speaking. And I want to see if I can connect with them, because what they're talking about is honestly akin to all the things we've been talking about here, right? Which is really exciting because, again, it goes back to the fact that there's a huge upswell of change happening in research administration, which is very exciting because it means that like we get to really be at the forefront of like this new era of res admin, which is very exciting. Okay, so wrapping up today with, because I'm super thirsty because I'm almost out of iced tea. So just a reminder, Region 1 conference this year, May 6th, 7th, 8th. It is in Portland, Maine. I am the keynote speaker, and check this out. Check this out. I'm going to be wearing horns. I don't know how much of this you can see. Let me see if I'm going to find my thingy. Ah, no, there it is. Hold on. There we go. Oh, look at that. Look at my horns, everybody. They're cool, yeah? So this is something that I made these. I actually bought these. I bought the mold, so it's, if you look in, you'll see it's 3D printed. But then I actually went over it with foam and I put all the gemstones on it and whatnot. And I realized I was only doing work. I wasn't doing anything but working, and so I needed a hobby. But at the same time, I also had this event that I was going to, and I was terrified. It was the first time I was going out like and being around people after COVID, and I was so scared. So I got these horns, and I got the horns. I don't know if y'all know about Sasha Fierce, but Beyonce used to have, well, I don't know if she has stage fright anymore, but she used to have stage fright. And before she would go on stage, she had a boa that she'd put on, and she'd put on her personality of Sasha Fierce, right? And that's who's went on stage. And so that's what the horns were originally supposed to be for. And it's amazing. They do a lot of heavy lifting in public. So I'll tell you, I wear these to a lot of conferences. And the horns, like, oh my God, the horns. And like, I become like chopped liver, which is just perfect. It's perfect. Everybody loves the horns. Okay, so just as an FYI, so I told you about the keynote. I told you about a Region 1. Make sure that you get your tickets. It's going to be great. I'm going to have cute swag. It's superhero themed. There's so many great sessions coming up, all talking about so many cool things. But there are also nomination applications are now open for Region 1 recognition awards. And so head over to, if you're a member of NCURA, head over to the NCURA website and check out the Region 1 awards, and you can nominate people. You can nominate yourself. Seriously, go and check it out. The other thing I want to recommend is if you're not a member of NCURA, check with your organization to see if they will reimburse you for a membership to NCURA. It is a really, really, really valuable resource. Absolutely incredible community organization. I've been a member since I was a wee baby tot research administrator, and I am still a member. So that is all that I have for you today. I will be back next Monday, where this is an evolving sort of, I did it one way for many, many years, but I'm adapting this for research administration. This week I was going to do, oh shit, that reminds me. I was going to actually do I was going to answer a question, but here's the answer. Here's the answer, everybody. No, there's a video that I did called Managing Up and Managing Down, right? How do you manage your supervisors? How do you manage your staff? And it was in response to a question that was asked And somebody else asked me about that too, because this is one of the bigger questions that I'm getting asked right now is how do I manage my manager, or how do I manage? And so two things. One is that video will help you with sort of like a baseline in terms of what you can and can't accomplish in terms of managing up and managing down. And then sort of like tactics for how you may be able to navigate certain situations. And then some of the things you may want to consider as challenges. The other thing that I want to recommend is I have a workshop, Career Evolutions, from managing grants to managing grant managers, that I do at organizations, which is basically to help new managers kind of navigate this difficult space between being a research administrator and then getting promoted into a manager, or being in a manager space and trying to figure out how do I manage my work, also make sure that I'm being there for my employees, also managing up. Like, there's a lot of different things that we have to deal with as new managers, which I remember, it's been a long time since I've been a new manager, but I vividly remember the whole experience. So if that's something that you need for your organization, that's something that I can help with. Otherwise, I am on LinkedIn. Please be sure to check out Manessa.tv for all of the videos. Don't forget to ring the bell, like, and subscribe so you get notified anytime I go live. Otherwise, I want you to have a wonderful, wonderful, fabulous week. And next week when we come in, we're going to have the closed captioning, which will be fabulous, and a couple of other things that I learned from the Learn conference that I'm really looking forward to implementing. So I'm looking forward to having taken some action on my DEI work related to my website. So more to come on that. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And by the way, if you have any